fabulous translator, and we're working out whether, just to literally put a line through the endnotes and get rid of that and let it stand on its own as a memoir, as a faux memoir, or whether to add another layer. Anyway, we're going to work together on that. But interestingly, this guy in the Hebrew version, I was looking for a good translator, and this guy studied translation at Bar-Ilan as well. And I met him, and he actually did his BA on the radio at Tel Aviv University. So it was a bit of a match made in heaven. So he's a radio obsessive, and I think he'll understand the spirit of Dr. Shine without perhaps too much secondary interference with translators and everything. But I don't know how actually physically the book will look, because it will be my book translated by, anyway, it's going to be a confusing one.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting anyway to see where it goes. I don't want to take up too much time before giving questions to you, but one, and I have many more maybe I can follow up with, but I'm also, you say you don't love memoir. There is, as a friend, I think I can say, and I imagine other friends might feel similarly, there's quite a lot of you in the book, in spirit, if not in biography, but also some real surprises. And I wonder, I guess a sort of basic but fundamental question, why did you write this book? Did you ever think about writing non-fiction as well as fiction? And relatedly, was this the book that had to come out, or is this the beginning of a lifetime of fiction writing?
Okay, so...
sorry, that was many questions.
I always write, I love writing, so I just continue to write for pleasure, and maybe, hopefully, something will come out of it, and in different genres, and in different locations, and in different things. So I'm not sure how that will come. I mean, I found the writing of this book, it was a culmination really of a lot of writing that preceded it, and it came very quickly. And once I'd settled, and I suspect this is to say why you can feel a lot of me in it, once I'd settled, I worked very hard on the opening to get it set up correctly, but once it got going, the writing was relatively free, and I suppose that's because I allowed myself to enter the work. As I said, I'm quite resistant to the idea of memoir, so allowing myself to enter the work more was something that I had to get over. And I think that the results are actually positive. What was the...
Well, is there... Yeah, so you didn't think about writing. Well, explain a bit more about this resistance to memoir, and then...
Okay, so in the creative... So there's creative non-fiction, obviously. There's MFAs in creative non-fiction and MFAs in creative fiction. And the weird thing about it is that 90% of people on my creative writing course just wrote about themselves, almost without any sense...
Filter.
Without any filter.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them would change their names from Milana to Alana. And then you'd have very long and strange sex scenes that you just knew had taken place, and it was very uncomfortable. And I certainly felt that I'd chosen, so this is probably more I felt I'd chosen creative writing to be with creative writers, not with creative non-fiction writers.
Yeah.
So I was getting annoyed. So one day I thought, right, I'm going to write a memoir, a faux memoir, in my creative writing class, and tried to send up a few of the conventions that the other people who were writing memoirs that they thought were creative writing, but they didn't really understand the genre. So it would, so it came organically, and as usual, I think, with a certain sense of combative energy that I think gave the writing of the story. That's also, it gave me a lot of motivation to get it out there, because it was, I felt that I was writing it partially as an artistic response to the milieu I found myself in.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Well, let's pause on me for a second, and are there any questions from anyone in the room? This is the...
Ed, you referred to Israel Shine as being a lunatic. When I read the book, he didn't come across as a lunatic at all. He came across as a very troubled individual, post-traumatic stress disorder and all that. Why do you refer to him as a lunatic?
I think that's fair. I think it was careless words, but I think that he feels, certainly in terms of his feelings of apology and guilt, that I think that, like a lot of people with mental illness, feel a lot of shame about their mental illness. And when I characterized him as that, I think that that's how he would characterize himself to Ori, to say, look, just forget about me, because in the end, he tries to put himself further away from his central life story. He realizes that she's far more central, and that his antics are something he feels ashamed about. So I suppose lunatic is not how I consider him, but how he may consider himself. Thanks, Robbie, by the way.
Yep.
Since we've got up so early on a bad day to come to your talk,
Right.
are you going to pay our fares?
I think, yeah, people who write books are not that reliable on funding anything. So I wish I could, but if you buy a book, I might be able to give you a quick discount.
I've got a sorry, you didn't ask.
So you don't have to buy a book, that's a shame.
Yeah, buy a drink for one or two people after, yeah.
Yeah. Tiny question, and the clue is in your surname. In other words, Welsh combined with Middle European Jewish. How much is that, and having not read the book, give me to ask the question, I will immediately after this session buy a copy, blah, blah, blah. But how much is the two poles of where you come from, how much of that is in the book, or the way you think?
Yeah, I mean, we could do 4 hours on this. I'd love talking about myself. I don't know. I mean, talking about myself is a pleasure. I think that to answer briefly, the moving to a new country and obviously being brought up in England, and I would say it's not even so much about whether my background is English or I'm British. I was brought up here, and I think in a way that the education system, how I was trained. I mean, a lot of the historical stuff in the novel and a lot of the historical research is because, I'm sort of a classicist and I'm just, so there's a lot of stuff in the background that's to do with my personality here. But I think the main point is that, as Nikki said, Dr. Sayers, said in the outset, going to a new place encouraged me to write, and I suppose in a sort of superficial sense, this idea of being a translator, I had to translate to myself the new place I found myself. And I also found, in Israel particularly, because I love the country hugely and I love its people, that, and it is, I think without a doubt, the most mischaracterized place in the world, that wanting to try and get that across to that other part of me, that British part of me, to try and convince, was definitely part of my writing. So I think that they interplay, and I think it also interplays with the idea of this: is this a English book about Israel or a Hebrew book? And I think that we'll find that out when it's in Hebrew, because a lot of it is. I mean, a lot of the language, for instance, is from my hearing of how Israelis speak to each other. The dialogue is not English dialogue. It is genuinely, as far as a representation of a translation of Hebrew.
Sorry, very sorry to interrupt, but if anybody has got tickets for either Hall 1 or Hall 2, now is the time to leave. It's about to start any minute now. Sorry.
Who's that? Simon Sharma?
Simon Sharma.
That guy, he follows me around everywhere.
Or indeed the St. Pancras room, any else.
There's a question back there, yeah.
And it is often said that to write the first book is quite easy. I'm not convinced is being the case. What is going to be your second book?
Yeah, so obviously I'm just now very happy to be skulking around in libraries again and doing PhD work, but I'm going to have to be honest, it goes back to the genre thing. So the thing that's really annoying me at the moment is dystopia literature, and I want to sort of do a treatment of that, but I don't think that any of my immediate work will be related directly to Israel. Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know, but at the moment, this book feels like a culmination of a lot of previous writing, and that it's a lot in it has come from elsewhere. So as a culmination, I feel that where I would go in the future would be a different direction. I may return to it, this kind of stuff, in years to come, but I don't, by the way, that's a question from my godfather, who is himself an accomplished writer. So I should ask him what he's writing next.
Turn the
I
table.
think I'm an accomplished writer of medical science. I also published, which Ed doesn't like as a genre, a memoir. It's somewhat more complicated than Israel Shine, and it is not a great deal unhappier, starting in Belsen.
Yeah.
So, copies.
And is a very moving and beautifully written personal
Sorry,
account.
can I just come back to the next book?
Yeah.
I know that, and you referred to that, there is something in gestation, yes, which is the entirely different location.
Yeah.
Have you given up the idea to get that book published?
No, I mean, I haven't really started writing it. I mean, that's the problem. I sort of write all the time, and to be honest, it's fiction writing is huge. It takes up so much time. I mean, and I'm also a very fussy writer. I can rewrite opening 500 words for months. And so, yeah, it's very distracting from what I really need to do, which is the PhD. And my main focus at the moment is certainly the doctoral thesis, and I'm very excited about that. So, yeah, hopefully I'll get that done. That's the goal. Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I will be reading this book, like John, very soon after this event. I'm interested in the passage that you chose to read, because it's packed with so much. It's a wedding day, and yet the cemetery somehow almost seems to be part of the wedding ceremony room. There's